The following is a presentation of the Matt Talk Podcast Network.
From the National Wrestling Hall of Fame, this is Legends. I'm Jason Bryant. Prepare for a journey through wrestling's past, present, and future, as we'll hear the great stories of wrestling and success from the true legends of the sport here on Hall of Fame Legends. Another special edition of Hall of Fame Legends, this one featuring a rare tape from the 1970s, the late 1970s. We're not sure exactly when this was recorded. We're going to assume it was anywhere between 1978 and 1983, as recent tapes unearthed by the Hall of Fame have shown induction audio from those eras. Now, Don Sayenga narrates this almost town hall-like discussion, and there are Olympians from back in the 20s all the way through 1964. Unfortunately, we're still looking for the second half of this discussion. This so far, 90 minutes of a back and forth between names that haven't been heard from in years. The sound quality is a bit distorted. Some things are a little hard to hear, but there is a true treasure trove of wrestling information and discussion here on this special episode of Hall of Fame Legends.
Do that one. That Pendleton was very famous as a movie star, they tell me. That's your time, Benny.
Oh, my God.
I located Nat's brother. Nat died, and I located his brother, and his brother said Nat always played the cop. Well,
Did you name any of the others?
I think so. Let's see. The fellow that is looking with his head to the side in the front row, you see his head tilted with dark hair? That's Sam Gerson. He's from University of Pennsylvania, and he was a silver medalist in the games. The fellow that is in the second row, furthest to this side over here, below the man with the fedora hat, is a fellow named Joe Shimon, and he's still alive. He lives out in Modesto.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Don, the fellow, the coach of that team with the cap on it there.
Yeah. I think his name was George Pinio.
George,
is that right? And he was a YMCA man. And what can you tell us about him?
Well, he's instructor for Gary YMCA in Gary. That's Indiana. And he's not much of a member of the wrestler, I understand. But we got along all right. I mean, he and the rest of the club. He didn't bother us.
Did bother you. I understand, if I'm not mistaken, that you were sent over to Antwerp on a reconverted troop ship, the Princess Matoika or something,
Princess Matoika.
And it was awful. Is that right?
Well, it wasn't good.
And I further understand that due to a bunch of misscheduling, you arrived in Antwerp at the beginning of a 3-day holiday, and there was no way to get off the boat except by to carry all your own gear off. Does that sound right?
I don't remember that.
Well, the other tale that I've heard told is that they put you up in a schoolhouse and there weren't enough cots for everybody.
Well, we were put up in the schoolhouse, all right. And what was the rest of it?
That there weren't enough cots for everybody at the beginning of the...
That's right, there wasn't.
And the man who told me that was a fellow named Wyant, a man from the military academy, a heavyweight, Alexander Wyant. He said that the people that were able to and had the finances left the camp and went downtown and moved into hotels. And he said that the only guys that made out good were the Navy wrestlers because they put them on a cruiser. They had a cruiser in the harbor, and they stayed on the cruiser and never did come into Antwerp. Does that sound right?
Right.
And is it generally understood that the Greco-Roman officials, that is, the Greco-Roman trained officials, did not really comprehend freestyle wrestling or American catch-as-catch games?
The wrestler.
Very good. Very good. Do you think that if it had not been for that, the Americans would have won every weight without question?
You mean in Greco-Roman?
No, in the catch-as-catch game.
Well, I don't know. They won how many classes after that?
Well, it seems to me that a fellow by the name of Ackerley from Cornell was a gold medal winner.
I think he was the only one.
And I believe he was the only one, that's right. And there were a couple of runner-ups.
He's still living.
Yeah, he's still living. He lives in Florida, and see if I can tell you which one he is. I believe he is the in the middle row, the one that's closer to me in the middle row.
He was a Cornell wrestler.
That's right. And the interesting thing is that Ackerley of Cornell and Gerson of Penn, who placed 1-2 at that particular weight, were both EIWA champions of the period. And there was another guy on the team, a fella from the Naval Academy, who had actually pinned both of them in a dual meet, but he couldn't make the Olympic weight. He couldn't get into the weight class. It was very small. I don't recall what it was, but I think it was 114 pounds for that side. And he couldn't get down to it. There's another picture of you here, Mr. Meyer, that's lifted out of the book. You handsome devil, you. Was that? I noticed that you parted your hair then the same way I do now.
Yeah.
How did you manage to shove it closer like that? Was there some trick? Yeah. Well, let's move on a little bit. Now we're up to 1924. And this time the games are in Paris. And this time there was a big tournament was held in the United States to select the Olympic team for 1924. It was the biggest elimination that had ever been seen in this country up to that time. And the winners were very well prepared in terms of wrestling skills to go over to Paris and do a job after the experience of 1920. One of the men from that team was Robin Reed, and another one was Guy Lukabaugh. And they're both in the room here today, and I think they're both in this picture. They're both seated back together at the rear. Guy, is that you on the right-hand side in the front of the picture? Can you tell? I think it's you on the left, Robin, in the front. Can't? It is. Yes, sir. And it looks to me like a demonstration of the double wrist lock is taking place.
An illegal hold. Vince will have to tell us about that. Is that illegal or not?
No, that's not illegal. Not the way you throw it.
No, I don't think you get that right.
This is Guy Lukabaugh, the original Super Aggie from right here at Oklahoma State University, Oklahoma A&M in those days. Guy was a member of the 1924 team, but he started wrestling here at Oklahoma State back before the First World War. Is that right? And came back? First team you run was when? After the war, 20? And what's your strongest recollection of going over there to Paris? You were a finalist at Paris.
Well, everything was good for a while. I waited on 35 on to get to the last nine. That was one of those situations in which there's a difference of opinion and a difference in interpretation of rules and so forth. And that's when I learned to take it.
Robin Reed back here in the back was a gold medal winner, and
I want to say one thing. At that time, Robin, I said I'd like to do the best anyway, amateur wrestler I've ever seen.
I want to tell you a tale about that, what this man just said, entirely spontaneous. This guy, Robin Reed, had the reputation back in those days of being the best wrestler anybody had ever seen. And one of the unique things about him that's fascinating to me, speaking as a person who I've always weighed over 200 pounds, I think, Robin, the concept of weight didn't mean anything for Robin. Robin would wrestle anyone. It didn't matter how big he was. Not only would he wrestle him, but he took a considerable amount of delight in pinning him because there's a recorded instance where Robin went to the wrestling room at Ames one day to practice, and volunteered to pin anybody that came in the door. And if I recollect, you made your way all the way to the light heavyweight before you stopped at it, is that right? But back in the 1950s, Robin Reed engaged in some correspondence with Jess Holt, the publisher of Amateur Wrestling News. And I'm digging here to see if I can't find a letter that Robin wrote then, but if I can't find it, I'll quote it to you anyway, because I have it pretty well memorized. Robin said to Jess that so well as he could recall, except for men that were injured and not able to give their full go, there was only one guy on the 1924 Olympic team who never could manage a pin, and that was this fellow right here. Roly poly. You know, Robin, you also in these same letters, and I'm going to find some other words. You said you told me another thing, and you repeated this. You said that the heavyweight who won the gold medal, Harry Steele, completely changed his whole style after arrival in France, under stimulation from you and Mr. Street, and went through on an entirely different method of wrestling in order to gain the victory. And that impressed you that somebody could switch that quick.
He has been very good student, and he changed with the life and he wrestled all through the time. Winning his second and practice one leg.
The double wrist lock. Count.
The double wrist lock. And no one ever.
Harry, he also said that Harry Steele certainly didn't look like a heavyweight. He looked more like a ribbon clerk. Isn't that what you used to say? He had an awful skinny neck. This is Harry Steele here. He had an awful skinny neck, and he did impress people, but he didn't really won the heavyweight gold medal.
He was Ohio State.
That's right, Ohio State. Big Ten champion.
The other guy looks bigger than him, and he was a heavyweight?
Yeah,
The guy
I
on the
believe
left
this
side.
is John Spellman of Brown, I think. And he also won a gold medal at the next weight down.
Well, he looks bigger than him.
Not him? Not Spellman?
No, that's not Spellman.
Does anybody know who it is?
Not Roger Flanders did.
Oh, I wouldn't know Roger Flanders of a song. Does anybody remember Roger?
He was a blonde. Yeah.
Well, when I first saw that slide, I had great difficulty identifying those men. Maybe we can pull that off by the time of next year and pick out who they are. Here's another, I think, picture on the boat. This time the boat is the America. The conditions are much better. A mat is out on the deck. The Olympic coach was a guy from Elizabeth YMCA by the name of Wilfred Cann. Wilfred Cann was a devotee of road work and insisted on the men getting up and running around the boat several times a day. You didn't like that at all, if I recollect. Is that right?
No.
And you told him you wouldn't run, and that was it.
Still got guys like that.
Robin has some very unique theories about wrestling, and one of them is running doesn't help anybody.
How about diet?
Huh?
How about diet?
Diet.
Oh, yeah. I'll tell you another thing about diet. Robin Reed, and I don't, you can tell this better, but let me start it and you finish. Robin Reed had a secret theory for making weight. I don't know where he developed it, but probably from conversations with an awful lot of people. He used to talk to some of the better people that were in the pro game at that time. Farmer Burns and John Pesick are two people he cites a lot. And his secret for making weight involved starving down to a certain point, and then he had a secret mixture that he'd make. I think eggs and ice cream, is that right? And he'd mix up eggs and ice cream, and he'd live on that. And he always knew within an ounce exactly how much he weighed, and he was the only man at the weigh-in in 1924 who stepped on the scale and it came right up to mark. But in any event, this was another one of the things that bothered Coach Ken something fierce. Coach Ken was the training table man, and he wanted Robin to eat that steak and eggs and all the other things. And one of the final days in the preparation before the games began, Robin went out to get himself some eggs and ice cream, couldn't find any, is that right? And substituted beer for the ice cream. A newsman was present, and it really created quite a stir. Where did you get that secret formula?
Well, it was on a fence post out there.
Do you know who's wrestling in this picture? Can you see it? It's pretty far back out for you.
I can't say either one of them.
I think it's Cam in the background.
Ken in the background looking onto the mat, standing
I
up
think
there.
it is.
And I guess that's one of the air shafts from the ship that's beside him there. When you were put up over in Paris, you were put up in like a chateau or something, weren't you? A palace? Roken Court or something?
Well, they had all the houses and buildings occupied. And some of the boys they put on the fourth floor.
And the wrestling was in a bicycle track in the middle of a velodrome-like affair. Is that right? Or
Yes, it was. You were correct on that. We put it up on a device about this high and about 35 feet in diameter, and it took care of all of the contestants. Very, very nice.
how about the officials, the European referees?
Well, they had a tendency to make their appeal like this, and watching the person try thin enough. They never called. They would get a rolling call. Very, very not good.
You pinned just about everybody except your favorite enemy, Chet Newton. Is that right? You pinned him too, come to think of
Well,
it.
Chet Newton, I got along all the way to there, but with the one called that was Boston. Can't remember his name now, but it was an Indian on the reservation. Would we go in there and I couldn't pin him.
Oh yeah, those Indians are tough. You know, they used to call Guy Loco. Everybody thought Guy Loco was an Indian. I don't know why that was, but they used to call you an Indian, didn't they, Guy?
Well, I look more like you than an Indian.
But you're really an Irishman, is that right?
Well, I look like
I think there's another picture here of you, Robin. That's you shaking hands? Do you know who the other fella is?
And Chet Newton, Oregon City.
He was a high schooler at the time, or was he at Oregon State?
I don't know. I don't remember. But I think it was low.
He got the silver medal in the same weight class as you. In those days, you wrestled 2 out of 3, isn't that right? 2 out of 3 contests against the same opponent. And in his case, to get the silver medal, after losing 2 to you in the final, he had to go back and wrestle back through a consolation to get to a consolation final. Well, let's see. Now this is another picture of Robin. Who's that fellow with you? Is that Russell Biss?
That's Russell Biss. Excellent fella, very strict and progressive. He didn't take as many chances as a lot of people did, but he got his person down the floor.
He got the gold medal too.
Yes.
Russ, he's what you call a Lee Kemp style. Just the right amount.
Just the right amount.
He called me too. He was here last year. If those of you who were here last year recall, and I think both the last 2 years. And he's still in pretty good shape, and he's quite a talker. And he called me too and said to extend his greetings to everybody, and he apologized he couldn't make it.
This picture, photograph was taken of Viv and I had a photograph from the outstanding. It is a great. Pardon me.
Oh, that's all right. You mean the photographer was a great man, or it was from a great publication or something?
Yes. And we both were at that time.
You two knew each other, both being from the West Coast. You knew each other from previous national amateur championships too. You never wrestled though. Is that right? Or maybe one time for 30 seconds.
Well, I probably kind of like to respect people.
Well said.
We started Leon Bennett. Franklin High School. Franklin High School and the other one.
That's Washington and Franklin are the two that were named to me. It's an interesting point Dale made. This fellow Leon Fever, was that his name?
Yeah.
Yeah. Was the original coach for both of these guys at 2 different schools in Portland. They both started wrestling together with the same individual. I think this is a good picture of you, Guy. You had a lot more hair then than you do now. They called you Duck for a while. What was that nickname?
That was his walk.
His walk just says
I can tell where someone says, "Oh, hi there, Ducky." I know it just that was a period of time.
yeah. Oh, so that it switched off at a certain point.
And then one was looking. That was I'd see him in the dark of night. Calling my name, I would tell where they're from.
You know something that I'd kind of like to know, and I bet the rest of the group would too. I understand that the 2 guys that were in the closest contention for that particular berth on the Olympic team never really wrestled to a finish anywhere. It was always a draw, and that's you and this guy Cliff Keene. Is that right? I got him down here now. Here, you want to go at it again, finish it?
Cliff and I come from the same neck of the woods.
What do you remember about him?
We're both Oklahomans, and get the rest of it.
Well, I can certainly remember him well because he was quite a legend when I came to Oklahoma A&M it was then. And my first year here, Guy dropped out of school, and then he came back my senior year. And so he came back to try to get himself in shape for the Olympics. And we did have some practice matches over there, just trying out. But I got my ribs full, and that put an end to that. But there was quite a bit of speculation then, but as to who was going to make that team. Well, of course, he went on and made it. And then we did have a match later on.
In Weatherford or somewhere?
In Weatherford, yeah. But that was a draw thing. We couldn't pin each other, so it's still the same way. I don't know whether we want to still try that guy or not.
Right now. I'm not going to answer that, but I'm going to tell you something else. When I got ready to go, everybody had to make your chance to try out for the team somewhere or other. And Cliff was on the college team, and he already had his clearance to New York City to try out in the final. I had to go to Kansas City. We had a district try out there in Kansas City. I didn't know how many men I'd have to meet or anything else, but I got on the train and So I got up there and they that horse up and take that. This few of us were wrestling in that class. And I gave him 28 seconds. That referee had been on the ball. Instead of standing up there and putting less than that.
I want one more question. Is that the Olympic uniform of 24? Those dark pants with the shield on the side?
Yeah.
And this, I think, is another team. I don't think this is 24. I believe this is the 28 team.
28.
And we have a finalist from 1928 here in the room, Mr. Lloyd Appleton, and you're going to have to do most of the talking. You're going to be our expert on 1928. Lloyd Appleton was a wrestler from Cornell College. 1928 is the year that the NCAA started. If I'm not mistaken, in the Olympic trials, which were held up by Pineo up in Grand Rapids, Lloyd Appleton met and had a whale of a tussle with Finley Collins in the quarterfinal. I think it went 4 overtimes. And ultimately, Lloyd got the nod, went on to the final up there at Grand Rapids and beat a guy named Geis, I think was a defending national amateur champ. And went over there to Amsterdam, kept on winning, right up to the final bout, and then what happened?
Well, that's right. But we had to wrestle in the final 3 times, 15 minutes each. Great time. Tavisto was in the final. Okay. Took him down, rode him, no trouble. Jumpsuit. Second time around. Took an hour and a half, 2 hours later. Same thing over. He reaches up with an arm, gets ahead. You weren't coached for headlock at all. He must have been a blacksmith.
That was it.
Anyway, you couldn't pull out of it, so the only thing to do was to roll over it. I swear at this day, the shoulders didn't touch. They didn't get started until three judges put up their hands. Well, that was even up so far. An hour and a half, 2 hours later, same thing over again. Tavisto. And same thing again, out on top. His help was covered up underneath. After a while, up came that arm. Same blacksmith arm, right arm. The nose right against his ribs. And that was the end of that. So that's quite exciting, really. Finland.
Avisto of Finland is the man, and the rolling fall was the thing that wiped off the Americans in 1928, and Berryman was the first victim, if I recollect, right? Knocked off Clarence Berryman of Oklahoma State in about 2 seconds on his first takedown. And the Greco-Roman officials insisted upon calling these instantaneous falls, and the team coach's comment was it was a shame that the team of the quality that represented us had to be subjected to that treatment that they received over there.
Different concept of wrestling entirely than ours. As for what is winning. We were coached different style. American coaches didn't know either. They always stood out who was the authority on the rules at that time. The Olympic Committee got together and decided on a 1-second fall before the game began. They didn't have any more authority than anything. The authority is the officials from the other countries who are old wrestlers. They know rules better than any committee does, so they call them according to their concept of wrestling, which is taking quite a long time to overcome.
I think it has been. I hear Dan Chandler behind me saying that's still the case.
Still the same. For example, a chap from Australia, 128-pounder, went off the mat. The first thing off was an arm drag, fast as could be. They were 6 feet apart when he hit the mat about on a roll. Fell up from Australia, rolled. Rolled across his shoulder just as fast as could be. Up goes the hand. One other thing interesting, I think you would appreciate knowing that the day of the opening parade in Amsterdam, we went out alphabetically, and they had a huge crowd for that stadium was full. Each country was in with terrific applause from the spectators. Finally, we go in last, which is the United States. You. Very little applause. This is an attitude, national reputation, which Jacob Burton had in mind, of course, but it was very evident to us at that time because we had occupied forests over in Europe. To me, that always struck home.
That's very interesting. Very interesting comment. Very little applause in opening day.
Yeah. A tenth as much as the rest. And that came from one section, apparently, where probably there was a group of Americans. Yeah.
This photograph taken on the boat?
That's on the boat.
Where are you in that picture?
You can't see one as bad as guy.
I don't want to try and guess. It's the first time I've seen that particular one. Well, I'd like you to point out Allie Morrison there, too. Oh, yeah. Very good. This would be Pinio here, I guess.
Pinio, Bill Can should be there. He's there? No, that's maybe. That can't be there.
This is Tex Edwards.
Tex Edwards, right.
And Allie Morrison here was from Marshalltown, Iowa, but he was wrestling at the University of Illinois at the time, and he won the gold medal. That was our only gold medal in those games, and Lloyd Silver was our only silver medal. We had Ed George of Michigan representing us at heavyweight, and Earl McCready, the NCAA champion, was representing Canada at heavyweight, and they got paired in the first round, if I recollect. Is that right? George beat McCready, I think, in the first.
George beat McCready. It wasn't in the first round.
It was not in the first. But then George was also victimized by rolling fall.
He won a silver medal.
I don't know whether I said that. I think we had about 5 or 6 champions in that group. Under even 1 second fall.
The team report says that the Americans wrestled in a total of 26 contests, and that only 4 times did they ever go on the defensive against them in 26 bouts. Well, we'll move on to 32. I think this is another picture. 20. No, this is
32.
Yeah, this is 32. This is the 32 team with Will Rogers, and these games, of course, were here in the United States at L.A. And Jack Van Peber's sitting over there right next to Lloyd. He was the gold medal winner in 32. Tell us about it, Jack. Tell us about Will. How did that picture get taken with Will Rogers?
We were touring Hollywood, and we met Will out there, and we had a picture made with him. I didn't have very good manners about me. I picked Will up and pinned his shoulders on the mat for it, told him on the ground for it, told him what I was going to do, and then I apologized to him, and I said, "This is for good luck." You know, and Bobby Pierce says, "I want some of that good luck too." So he pins Will's shoulders down, and so Will says, "What kind of a bunch is this? So where are you from?" "Oklahoma." He says, "That all they have is Raptors?"
The man let me in a little. I was there at the time. Yeah, here comes a car down the road, street. Some of these fellas recognize the Will Rogers. They're right out in front of the car and stops him. And he said, "Where are you from?" "We're from Oklahoma." "Where are you from?" "First Will, Oklahoma." So that's what I remember. And they had a great time together. They really did.
You guys are sitting close enough you can identify almost everybody, I bet. I don't.
Yeah.
In the back row, I know this is over here. And
I'm sorry.
This is Connie Caldwell behind Will. Is this you, Lloyd, here?
No, he's over to the right, back, standing right back above the third over in the back.
Here. Here's Bobby Pierce. This is a fellow named Nimmer, isn't it? Is this Nimmer?
Yeah,
Nimmer. This is Street.
Jack Riley.
That one there is Shorty Morford, isn't it? The one that's bending over.
Yeah, sitting down.
Yes.
Oh, no, that's right.
This one? That's Speed. This is Teague, I think, from Southwestern. This is Jack Riley over here. Jack was here. Who is this person? I don't know. You know one of these guys.
The one is the
This is Kleinfelder.
They call him their brother.
YMCA wrestling from Baltimore. Erickson.
Yeah.
He didn't make the team, but
He was there.
He rode along.
Ah. Yeah, where's the straight here?
That's Harmon.
His son wrestled at Navy, you might remember.
Oh, yeah. Well, the officials treated you a little better, though, in L.A., is that right? Maybe they knew whose turf they were on. I think we have another picture from 32. This is Bobby on the victory stand. But the wrestling wasn't held in the Coliseum, it was held...
Nearly downtown.
Nearly downtown. But you had to go out there to get your medals, over to the stadium to get your medals. That Suomi on that one guy means Finland in Finnish. Anybody speaks one.
That was sweet.
There's Jack in those days. Mighty slim. Big smile, look at that smile.
Passed out right there. When I got off the ring, out of the ring, that last round, I fell off the steps.
Did you? What was the story on the berets? That was part of the team uniform, I guess.
Yeah, that's part of the team uniform.
Is that the village where they housed you? In the background?
That's right. Oh, I can add a little story to that. When we had the presentation, we stopped just before we went into the stadium, and there's a girl athlete behind me says, what kind of an athlete are you? And I said, I'm a wrestler. And she said, you don't look like a wrestler to me. And so she jumped on the back, and I arm dragged her and switched her and sat down on her. When I got up, I said, you think I'm wrestling? She said, I believe you are, and it was Babe Deacon.
Oh. Well, her husband was a professional, wasn't he?
He was a professional. She made him after that. She liked wrestling.
She's
like a downdraft.
Well, now we move it up to 36, and the games are in Deutschland, Berlin. And this year the team was selected in a tournament that was held in Bethlehem, where I live. And there are good newspaper articles about it, so I followed that pretty close. But this team was again victimized by European officiation. We got Fred Parkey here, remember that team, and Dale Brand, remember that team. What do you fellas remember about it?
There's some fastball. That'll sure go along with that. They had this one boy in front there with Ross, sitting to Ross's left there. That's they got him identified as Millard, and that's Duffy in Indiana. He was just along with the team. Somebody gave him that sweatshirt that he's got on.
Willard Duffy.
Duffy, yeah, from Indiana. But on the picture, they got him identified as Millard. Millard was not there. Millard's not in that picture.
Oh, for goodness sake. That's Willard Duffy, and he made that trip.
Well, he came over. Well, he went over there, and then Billy Tom was the coach.
Billy Tom is the guy who was holding the white hat in his hands, I guess, and that's Mr. Gallagher seated beside him with a beret on.
Right.
Straight in the back, and Dr. Gallagher, Ed Gallagher's son, is the fellow next to Street in the back. He just passed away. Right. And if
Clarence.
let's see, can you go across the back and tell us which one of those fellows in the back is done?
On the left there.
Third from the left.
Yes.
No, third from the right.
The tallest one, the tallest fellow. He was a heavyweight, and he waded through the trials, and then he had the fastballs called against him a little bit. And Ross Flood had a fastball called against him, I think. Ross is in the room?
No.
Not here?
I'd like to say something now. Ross had the world champion. It was in his hand. He was wrestling a boy from Hungary.
Zombori?
Zombori. And he had the victory. All he had to do is he just stood up and just walked around for another, I believe, 14 seconds. He had the world championship. But Ross was a very competitive guy, and he had to win fall, and the guy rolled him and quit the ball, and then
That's Ross was behind him. He actually just both rolled forward and he bounced like this.
Well, Frank Lewis won a gold medal over there.
There's him second from the right there on the upper one.
Yeah, turning with his head turned toward Dunn. And Frank, you had one called on you too, didn't you?
Yeah, it wasn't really a fast call. Behind the guy, and he put a headlock on me, and I laid there for like 5 minutes. I finally did stand, and I rolled. But I won all my other matches.
That was a Swede, is that?
Yeah.
And then on the black marks, you were ahead of him anyway. So, what about the way the Germans treated you as far as housing and general treatment?
Everything was excellent. Facilities were terrific. People treated us real nice. They really prepared. They appreciated you one job. Facilities and everything.
I think wrestling was the first part of the Olympics in 1936. And it was over in the first 3 days, I think. And I think the first championship that was won by the United States in the whole game was Frank Lewis.
Very good.
I believe that's right.
First gold medal awarded to America in the 36 games went to Frank Lewis.
I believe that's right. Because it was the first event, it was over first.
Did you feel that you were coached properly to go that style? You'd been
No background at all.
none at all.
In 35, they had the National AAU at Oklahoma City. That's the first time we had wrestled what time and then the fall. We had no preparation at all except what we hear. You should be able to bridge. You tell you about.
And Tom, the coach, continued to have tryouts on the trip on the way over on the boat. Is that
Tried
right?
out over the boat, and after we got over, seemed like every day we tried out our opponents.
Well, that's what Ben Bishop said. They had him going against Doc Strong, I guess, 6 times or something. And Doc was a victim of the black mark system. He didn't get falls, and he piled up a bunch of them. And then when he finally lost the match, he put him out. Dick Paul.
I think there's something like of interest there. I heard him talking. You try out, maybe not every day, but frequently. Keep these fellows in order. You know, the control, the matter of control. That was the coach's technique. Keep them training. The only point is when somebody comes through at least 4 years of college competition, here comes the World Championship up. You don't have to worry about Van Biller, for example, breaking the rules. So it's a pretty conscientious.
It wouldn't be there.
It wouldn't be there, so all the slang knowledge.
That was a very interesting comment. Well, Bill Tom, who I've never met ever, he's gone before I started looking at this stuff. kind of a controversial guy anyway, I think. Is that a fair statement? A professional wrestler, and he coached in Indiana, and he got involved in the AAU activities and was named. A lot of people felt Mr. Gallagher should have been named. I know in Bethlehem, a lot of people feel Billy Sheridan should have been named.
Really personality, I mean, he's forceful. He's in there all the time. Well, didn't Charlie McDaniel, the one up there on the left, far left, did he go to Indiana?
Yeah, that was one. He involved.
Was at Rutgers.
Yeah, but he went to Indiana with Tom. He and Charlie were both Tom's pupils. Bob got a silver.
Coach at Rutgers also?
Yeah, he did. That's right.
Yeah.
That wasn't Mr. Gallagher, the honorary coach, because of his health. Tom was an coach.
Well, we actually got out to the wrestle exhibition around the state to raise money to take Coach Gallagher with us. They didn't name him on coach.
The local people put up the money to send him over. I'm fortunate, Dale, in that when Dr. Clapp, who was the head of the Rules Committee and also secretary of the Olympic Wrestling Committee at the time, kept very good minutes and notes. And he gave those to Bill Patterson when he turned everything in back in the middle 40s. And Bill retained all of Dr. Clapp's notes and donated them to the hall. They're over here in the library. And there's an interesting discussion in a set of minutes over there about this debate as to who should be the coach, because there was a faction that wanted to name Ottopalek the coach again, in view of the fact that they had had a successful team in '32, and Ottopalek had been ostensibly the coach of the successful team. You know, this permanent coach idea was floating around. But, Cliff, do you ever had some feeling, that atmosphere of...
I was really Olympic committee. And substitute from a guy from Ohio. Red. Well, anyway, I was put in there temporarily. Actually, Dr. Clapp, he ran things. And I think that is the general premise that you're going to have to start out with. And there was, Dr. Clapp was sort of amenable to suggestions, but he is the guy that runs things. Now, for some reason, he didn't appreciate Mr. Gallagher. And to him, he thought that Gallagher was a bad influence, the kind of wrestling that they had at Oklahoma State. And that was one thing. As a matter of fact, that was things I was always prejudiced against. Anybody that ever wrestled with Gallagher, of course, they knew that he was the greatest in the world. But I think that has a lot to do with the way things that were run at that time. And I talk here for 30 minutes to explain that whole business, but just basically, I think that his dominance of the whole Olympic situation and also the intercollegiate situation, that had a tremendous impact on wrestling, and all we've been talking about here this morning, about us not understanding the European style of wrestling. And it was our concept that we still a little hazy on. But when we went over it in 1948, we still didn't understand it. So I think that is kind of in the background of this whole business. And I think that on Mr. Gallagher, I think it's a sort of a crime that he hadn't been selected as an Olympic coach on his record for long before this. But the setup being as it was, and it dominated and sort of the attitude toward it, they knew that we weren't doing quite right, but I think there was just a lot involved in that.
Cliff, your brother Paul, seated right beside you, had the championship college team of the period, and you had some of the same thing in connection with trying to select a coach for a 1940 Olympic team. Is that right? There was political motivation at work all the time. Paul, I was asking. Yeah.
Well, I don't know how I was finally selected, but
nobody told you how or why.
Well, I knew some of it, but the only part I knew was my side of it. So
that's the best kind to remember.
Yeah, factor in there.
don't think you'll know better, Paul. C.W. Street, he had a lot of power. He must have given money, got some money from the cement factory. He had a lot of power.
He sure did, didn't he?
Not too reliable.
No, I'm not too knowledgeable about wrestling.
He goes by personalities.
Just what he's a great politician, though.
He's a politician.
I don't know if. Yeah, this is a picture that shows Ross, number 2, on the victory platform. I guess the German guy in the front there, that's the German Olympic uniform, and he's saluting his national anthem at the moment, I suppose. Or else. Oh, is it somebody else's?
Play the winner's national anthem.
I see. And that winner is holding an oak tree. I think they gave the winners an oak tree. You got one. What did you do with it?
There's a man here on the campus, sick guy out.
Is that right? You go past and pat it every now and then, do you?
That's great.
No, it's there. Kind of scraggly, but it
Doc says the tree's 100 years old.
Now this old thing of corn up like a Mason.
Go ahead.
I'm sitting here by my biggest enemy and threat I had in the Olympic Games. And Street, he was messing about. I didn't know too much about all these people, but Street gave me a lot of pointers on how to take care of him if I had him. And he didn't know that.
Very good.
And
He knew no wrestling, of course.
no, he didn't know any wrestling. He knew a lot of dirty tricks. You know, so all knows to win the Olympics. And so one thing he told me to do, said, make him get down to your weight, and he was about, how many pounds heavier were you?
I was 74.
74, and he had to come down to 58. He thought about coming down. He'd like to have that position, but I said, when you come down to my weight, I'll take you on.
Very political.
I got to tell a story on C.W. Street, though, because it has to do with the ethics of the whole games. 1924, Street was over in Paris. He wanted to be in on it, so he held the tickets, the chances. He slipped all these tickets out of the hat. Who's going to referee next? So the officials would pull it out, look at it, give it back to him, and he'd hold it. And he told me this himself, so it had to be true. I didn't like that fellow. He cracked on the floor, the wooden floor, and he slid down through the floor. I suppose there were probably 2 dozen or more officials altogether. And it goes on for 3 days. And after a while, only a few officials are getting this a chance to officiate. Kept wondering why didn't he come. Finally, along about the finals, somebody looks in the hat. There are only four tickets left. Then they know what's happening to it. We get a black eye, though. Show the American trick or something like that from those that knew about it, so those things don't always pay off. That's C.W. Street, though.
He got a black eye internationally, you mean, from the...
Well, we did.
Oh, I see. As a result of it.
This is before my time.
Don, I'd like to say something here. Those boys are standing right in front of where Hitler was seen. If they face the right, they'd be facing Hitler. He's saluting him probably at times. But he was there practically every day. I think that people went to the stadium and all Hitler, and he came to the wrestling. One time they said I didn't see him, but they said he was there. He was very active. You could see him practically every day.
Did he really snub Jesse Owens or not?
No.
I heard that he didn't, but the press decided to make it look like he did.
What happened? We didn't salute. We didn't march the parade because we hadn't wrestled the next day. Aldrin, I think, marched the parade. But the Americans didn't salute the Germans.
They just turned their head sideways when they went by him.
Walked by. They honored him, but they didn't salute. So that caused some division. And all through the Olympics, the Lord, they were up and down, Heil Hitler, hours.
Every time he popped past. This is the 4 of you with Mr. Gallagher, the 4 OSU guys on that one team. And I guess that's Ross and Doc Strong on the left, and you and Fred on the right. Pretty tough-looking bunch. Where's that, right out here on the campus?
Yeah, still over against the old gym. No, that's
Doc had some pretty tough legs on him. He was really good with those scissors, wasn't he? I say Doc Strong had some great legs. He was a good scissors man.
Yes. Doc was real strong. He was an outstanding kid. He had some problems later on. I'd like to say one thing about our high school coach. Nobody ever hears of him, but I think he should be honored in some way. It was Matt Berg. I know Paul and 15. Yeah. So we had volunteers from Christian champions. I was Doc all in a period of the 4 years. We were real proud of our high school coach as well as
if it's not too far off the tone of the Olympics, I'd like to bring something else out about that. If I understand, I've met him. He lives down in Houston, good health.
Yeah.
He was sort of like the Ford dealer there in Cushing. He wasn't really on the payroll of the school at all.
He had nothing to do with the school.
He just went over and got a good.
He loved wrestling, like Papa.
And then, but he ended up kind of a millionaire, didn't he? I think he.
Well, he invented side boom for pipeline facilities. He did real well.
And after he went over to Tulsa and had a factory working for this device, he coached or set up a team in Tulsa Y over there, and they used to wrestle the colleges.
After I got back, I went over and wrestled, went up to 8th at Des Moines. I wrestled Y. A little joke. 18. McDaniel. He was a freshman.
Well, the 1940 Olympics were canceled, unfortunately, by the war, and that denied Paul Keene a chance to be Olympic coach.
But I was the only coach that never lost a match.
Very good. Well done.
Good.
And then the 1944 Olympics were canceled by the war, and finally they decided that they didn't get them going again in 48, they weren't going to get them going, and the British agreed to be the hosts, and the games were in London, and America had plenty of advance notice, and I think, based on my research, probably went through the best preparation of selecting a team and getting the team ready to go as anything that had happened up to that time. The two men responsible for that were Art Griffith and Cliff Keene. They're in the back row in that picture, one on either side. And Cliff's here. What else can you tell us about that particular scene, if you recall?
I think we're very fortunate in having about 3 of us.
Jerry?
I think there are. Well, anyhow, to kind of hurry this thing along, I don't want to eulogize anyone here, but I think that Art Griffith did a tremendous job in preparing this group. And it is a shame, actually, that we couldn't fare better. But just as far as horsepower, and we did prepare what we thought was the right preparation. And that was one of the things that Art was so interested in. Well, now what are the rules? What are we going to go by? And we made a great effort. And we had, even after we got over to London, we had some exhibition matches. We wrestled against the British Commonwealth League. Or I guess our reserves should go into that. But anyhow, so we could call those matches. But even to that, we still didn't quite understand the philosophy of the way they were doing things over there. And in that respect, I believe that team, one of the most significant things about that group was that we did get a better insight into this international style of wrestling. Now, in reference to the team, I don't think we ever had a group of men that were more dedicated. And the esprit de corps was great. Everything was just marvelous about our preparation. And when the thing is over, it gave me and all of us, I suppose, a sort of a sick feeling, because we realized that, damn it, we had the horsepower there, and if we'd just known, we ought to have won 4 just by the minimum is my conviction. And but we did. I took all the notes I possibly could, and I prepared a 90-page article on every match and tried to analyze the whole business. And I sent that out to all those that were interested in it, that public interest, and I hope that had some impact on it. But I would like to hear just a little bit from
we got
Jerry Lehman. He's here, and where's
Glenn's here.
I really would like to hear
two of the people
comment on it.
Two of the people that went right down to the end in it. Jerry Lehman ended up with a silver medal, and Glenn Brand ended up with a gold medal. Jerry, tell us about that Turk.
Of course, Glenn did a great job, and the Turk he beat was in a room next to us, and the walls were very thin, and he howled for 15 minutes afterwards. Glenn said it was the greatest sound he'd ever heard. was, of course, extremely outstanding, and I really feel, and I'm sure Glenn feels that Cole should have won, but he was put out on 2 of those touch falls. One, in fact, the guy didn't even have a hold because he sort of tripped backward and rolled over his shoulders, and they put Cole out. Then he had to come back and wrestle the Swede, and Cole tried the horsepower, and he found out that Swede had no horsepower too. And but he had to pin him to win. Henry Wittenberg was he was influential with our entire group. And Henry won a gold medal. Glenn won a gold medal. Of course, I got second. Leland Merrill got third, and I think Cole got 5th or 6th. We really should have won about 4 weeks. We had a little more knowledge of what we were doing, and a little bit of luck, and I hadn't gone to sleep a couple of times. And that's until the coast. Glenn may ask him.
I just wanted to show you.
But it was a great group of kids. About half of us had been in the service and came back. And about half of the group were young guys who were just starting out to make the march. So it was a great mixture, I think.
I think that's the Turk lifting you there. Is that typical?
Yeah, now this Turk here wrestled Bill Nelson the following year at 160 and a half and pinned Bill Nelson. McCuskey said he looked like a heavyweight sawed off at the knees. I didn't look him over that fast after we got done. Kind of got out of him. I'd wrestled 5 times up to here. Only this Turk and myself were left in.
Last 2 guys.
Yeah,
so this was for the gold. Head to head.
This was it, head to head. It was over.
Well, Glenn got the gold. Here he is being handed the medal. And I've heard it said, or I think I asked you this question before, but I'll ask it again in the group. Joe Scarpello, who was your alternate, was about as tough a competition as you could have found around here, and your confrontations with him had you right at a razor's edge when you went over there. Is that right?
Well, actually, I felt that Joe or Jim Gregson or Swift, any of those 3 guys would have won my weight. And I had tougher time getting on the team than I had after I got it. And what Cliff said about Art Griffith, he really had us ready as far as I was concerned. I thought he had covered every angle as well as he could. And physically, I've never been in better shape in my life, and the entire team was this way. And Cliff and Jerry, maybe you'll remember this, but the night before the matches were supposed to start, Griffith called us together for a little meeting. And he said, in every tournament, I can generally pick who's going to get first, who's going to get second. He said, invariably, somebody that I pick to be a champion gets knocked off. He said, that doesn't bother me, because somebody that I have not picked to be a champion comes through. Right when he said that, that was the first time I really seriously started thinking about the possibility of me being a champion. Up until then, I was so busy working and training that I hadn't even thought about yet. And I felt for sure that Jerry and Bill Cole were going to get gold medals. Anyway, the next morning we went to weigh in, and all of the foreign wrestlers were standing around my scale, and they're all naked. And this is my first chance to see these guys and see that they're not superhuman. Some of them were tall, and some of them were short, some of them were bald. None of them looked any bigger than me, and I started feeling better right away. So then we went up to the pairings, and the very last two names at the bottom of the list was me and somebody else. That meant I got to watch every single guy there wrestle ahead of me, except the guy that I was going to wrestle that day. And I got way up in the back of the bleachers all by myself. First two guys came out. I said, I can beat that. Crossed them off. And two more came out, and I said, God, they're worse than the first one. Two more came out, and this is an absolute fact. Just before my match, I had goosebumps all over me, and I was just trembling from head to foot, and I said, my God, your world changed. Well, I didn't even wrestle yet. And I kept saying, well, don't be so goddamn confident. I said, I'm not, I just know the results. Anyway, and when I beat that last Swede, Jerry and a bunch of the guys came out and carried me off the net, and I thought, didn't you guys know I was going to win? I've never been so confident about anything in all my life. Very neat experience.
Don, could I say one more thing?
Sure.
There was one other person I think that had a lot to do with his particular team of ours. He had three guys that made that team, Bill Cole, myself, and Bill Nelson was Norman. He and I contributed 6 of the team. That's Dave McCuskey. Now, Mac had all the Iowa kids up at our school. He came up, and Leo Thompson. There were about 6, 8 of us up there that worked out for a couple of weeks before we went to Bethlehem for the final tryout there. And I just think Dave McCuskey was a pretty important guy in some of the success of that team. Yeah. And I'd like to pay tribute to Mac.
Good for you.
I got much credit.
Well, we got one of Mac's boys was the gold medal winner 4 years later. We'll move on to this gang. This is the group of medalists from 52 in Helsinki, and that tall, skinny, then handsome chap is on the first on the left is Bill Smith. What can you tell us about that picture, Bill Smith?
Well, the first comment, of course, is that I was probably the last person in the world to ever have a chance to win an Olympic medal, as you can see by the physique there. Especially standing next to Wittenberg. I figured if he was an Olympic champion and had to look like that, then I was in trouble. And, of course, there was some auspicious people on the Olympic Committee that made statements like, especially about Joe Henson and myself, that why in the world would the U.S. bring over 2 guys so bad with physiques and long gear like that had no chance to ever win against any Europeans. And, of course, we heard this before the Olympic Games started, and I really kind of believe it, really, in a way, because as Glenn was talking about being at the weigh-ins, I was just the opposite. When I looked at those guys, I knew I couldn't whip them because they were all much shorter, but man, they were like 10 feet wide, you know, and they had all these hard muscles and everything. And I guess I was always impressed by that anyway when I was wrestling in college. But boy, I was even more impressed when I saw the European wrestlers that way. And I don't know that. I guess probably I was fortunate looking at it that way. We figured I had everything to gain even if I won one match. And but also I had enough grit to say, well, you know, people were going to say this guy's too skinny to win. Or maybe I might try to change their mind. And I think Joe Henson felt the same way. And as it turned out, two of the 4 gold medal winners, the medal winners at least, were real skinny guys that weren't supposed to win and changed things around. At least Evans had a And Wittenberg had a physique to win, but Henson and I didn't.
This is another picture, I guess, that you guys, where are you? Are you in a dormitory there?
Yeah, that was in our, my room, or I believe, or else Wittenberg's room, one of the two there. They were all the same, so you couldn't tell much difference between the rooms and all. But the thing that was different about 52 Olympic Games, you notice those flowers there. I didn't, at that time, appreciate it too much. Too feminine, you know.
Yeah, you didn't get to plant them on the campus.
Since being out in California, I didn't know why. We'd rather had something more masculine.
A little more masculine. Well, you were slim, all right.
Well, but there I'm a lot heavier there. That's after the games were over, and I was 160 pounds, weighing in there for 4 days, and 3 days after the Olympic Games were over, I weighed 175, and I'd never weighed that much in my life. Oh, no, I mean, pardon me, 185, and I never weighed that much in my life. And I had gained 25 pounds in 3 days.
Oh, gosh. Is Tommy here? Is Tommy here?
That still looks skinny.
Is Buell here?
Yeah. No, Dale's here. He was on.
Dale, he was on that team.
He might have some different outlook of it.
I was on the 52. I tried out in 48. This beat Gregson. And I tried out for this team. We got beat Wittenberg. And Wittenberg beat me, and then I tied with him last year to try out again. Instead of that, I went against Kerslake. I beat Kerslake twice. And I went over to weigh in. I didn't weigh 191, so I ate breakfast. Then I went over again. And so I could be over, you had to weigh over 191 the rest of the week. And so they wouldn't let me check in because they had the interviews 6 weeks and months
in advance. The name had to be,
yeah. And Schwartz didn't know that, and Patterson didn't know it. Of course, we were like all the Olympic teams up to that point. The next one I went to, and we didn't have any contact with the rest of the world. Now we go to world championships every year and we travel the country. So anyway, I tried to weigh in, and they wouldn't let me, so I went to 191 and I couldn't weigh in there. So there was only about 15 minutes left. And if I hadn't ran and got Kerslake out of bed, he wouldn't wrestle me. All weigh-in was just, the coaches were gone, nobody was there, and I didn't know if I could find Kerslake. And so I got a picture of me on the team. I was the heavyweight. The day before, and I didn't march, and Kerslake marched, and I didn't because I was to wrestle the next day. That rule was changed then.
Didn't the Turks have a problem with that in 52 too, did they not?
No, 3 Turks, 3 gold medal winners were declared ineligible for professionalism.
Oh, it was not because
they gave them a home and put them in business. And Charlie Ridenauer and I were probably the first Americans to go through a long period of training in international style. The Turks were the greatest wrestlers in the world during that time, and they were for a decade. They trained all the rest of the world. The Japanese hired them, the Russians did, everyone. So I stayed and wrestled with those guys every morning for a long time, and so did Charlie Ridenauer. Anyway, that was, Smith didn't even know he won the gold medal when he won it. He didn't know the backmark system.
Yeah.
And you never knew, even in our trials, who won the match and why. Honestly.
Everything was a secret.
Trooper Swift will tell you, I beat the crap out of it, and if you want to split decision, the next time you might get the crap beat out of you, and he didn't know it was Finn refereed him that incidentally. And
Tommy Evans should have won first.
Yeah.
But in those days, if you ran off the mat, the clock kept going.
There was no timeout for autograph.
Yeah. And the Swede ran off the mat.
Oh yeah, it was Anderberg. Tommy was here last year when we went into that very thing, and
nobody, Finn didn't even know what was going on, and he was refereeing. And that's right, isn't it? You didn't know because you couldn't tell. And we didn't know, but in '56, we knew what was going on. Then we knew the rules and the point system was going to be, but we did it in preparation. Because that was the first time that anybody there, we had a world championship in '54. I went to that, and that was the first time we did it. But I think the '56 team was the first team that had contact with the outside world. None of these other teams
had. Up to that
point, no, not at all.
Well,
yeah, I think the thing about that too is that you hear year after year, or Olympic year after year, and the same thing went on in 52. And there was no reason why we shouldn't have had 4 or 5 gold medals easily, because Hugh Perry and Billy Borders at 15 and 25 were so much better wrestlers than anybody that was on the mat. In fact, those 2 guys and Tommy Evans must have had 1,000 takedowns, it seemed like, and yet they didn't win. You know, and they didn't get points for that. But
the takedown was not considered a creditable thing. Whoever was making it.
In fact, the picture of that Turk holding Jim or Lehman up,
Jerry
Lehman up, well, indicated that right there got more credit than if you took the guy down 6 or 7 times. And so we didn't know that, and we'd figure Billy Borders, he won it, or Hugh Perry, he's got that easy, and up go the flags for the other guy. You know, we had no way of knowing who was supposed to be a winner, just like Thomas was saying. But that was true about the finals. And I can remember Wittenberg was sitting up in a balcony, and I thought I had to pin the Iranian in the finals to be champion. And I was doing everything under the sun to pin him. And I was just beating the snot out of him. And he had beaten everybody else. If it hadn't been that other, you know, if I went into the match knowing all I had to do was get a decision, he probably would have really clobbered me, because he was cutting people up with his legs. But I was trying all kinds of crazy stuff. They called country holds, the old Iowa farm hold, and new holds I was trying out right in that match. And I had him on his back several times, but I couldn't pin him. And so, like, there was about a minute to go, and Henry Wurtenberg's yelling down, "You got it, one, you got it, one, you're the champion." And I'm thinking, why, you stupid guy, you don't even know the rules. I got to pin this guy. And I'm going after him like that. And he was just about ready to come out on the mat and hold me back. So even when we got up on the stand, you know, I'm trying to get the Iranian up there, or the Swede, and I say, "Hey, yeah, you know, you're a champion, get up there." And so we didn't even know it until then. They're pushing me up, and I said, "Hey, these guys don't want to take the gold medal, I'll take it." You know? And that's about the first time it dawned on me that was first instead of third.
Well, in 56, when you went over to Melbourne, that was the first time that 2 separate teams were set up for entry, one Greco and one in freestyle. And Coach McCuskey, were there 2 separate coaching assignments too?
Yeah. Joe Scalzo was in Greco-Roman.
Scalzo was Greco and you were freestyle.
I sort of felt like Brand did. I didn't think I was going to win the championship. I thought we had about 5 guys to do it. 4 or 5. It didn't turn out that way.
Well, in
Roderick ran into Sasahara. He's pretty tough. I thought Danny had won it. His shoulders hit before the whistle.
That was at the very last second, wasn't there? Something? You were just going off.
Man in the bridge.
You were off.
You're getting ready to dress. And another thing happened was Tucci got hurt.
Yeah, it's last
day before. Tommy Evans had been wrestling Greco-Roman all the time. He had to win freestyle and Greco-Roman both. And a lot of things happened. Really, I alibied last year, so I don't have to this year.
Yeah.
I'll be back.
Okay.
I tell you, we had some fine guys, and they were ready to wrestle.
Everybody want to hear that alibi from last year? We have it on tape. It's over there in the hall. But Dan, you had to wrestle both styles, didn't you?
No, I had got in the Bill freestyle out in California, and I knew I could beat Bill. I was coming back after I get done. I wasn't going to let him win another match. We'd come back to trial. But in that innocent time, I went ahead and won the Greco-Roman. I pinned several. Went to Hugh Boulder, boy, all service champion, cut his eye. We both went in for leg at the same time, and he ended up with a cut eye. And then he didn't even wrestle Jim Peckham, and I wrestled Peckham. And Peckham, Jim had wrestled many national league tournaments. And so they wasn't going to take an alternate. So I said, well, Jim had been trying all these years, would never be on the team. I would let him take the Greco-Roman for just in case I got hurt. I was thinking of the team, we wouldn't lose both spots, freestyle and Greco-Roman. So I let him shortly after that. Bill had been declared faithful. After the match, of course, Bill had a real good blister, and I thought I'd roll through and come up and pull him on his back, and he patted me, and I thought I'd won. they raised Bill's hand. Apparently I stayed down too long. But that's one of those quick ones. But I felt then that Bill raised my hand. I don't know why. Being a world champion, he's just tremendous. But in my match over in Australia, as soon as I touched my opponent, Niccolo, Bulgaria, he would run over to, well, say the mat was like his room, he was facing this way, he'd run over the edge, and they'd go get him, put him back. As soon as I touched him, he'd run over the edge. They said, hey, you're finally going to have to stop. So he ran over the edge, and I turned him, and he rolled off of the platform. And he made about 2 feeble attempts to get up to run up the side, and couldn't make it, so he was in the middle mat. We walked around and over, back down, and meanwhile the clock kept going.
Because there was no
then
time.
He got down and he faced back this way, and the referee had to stop, turn him around, and come back. I would imagine probably in the 3-minute period, I probably didn't rest for more than 10 seconds out of this part here time. And I'd taken him down several times at the beginning, and then he got his choice, and then he made 1 feeble attempt. Well, the referee was on this side here, was watching the match over here. The referee was not watching, and the judge from Czechoslovakia, I was getting off the mat into the bridge, and he was the only one that signaled that pin.
Only one.
And there was no dispute, so consequently I hadn't even taken my first breath yet. So my next match was to wrestle with Russian. I said, well, bring him right now. They said, no, you got to wait 2 hours. I think finally waited maybe 30 minutes, and then I said,
in the Russian. But at that point, they'd already recorded this as if it were a fall.
Oh yes, and you know,
that
it
cost you
sounded
the gold medal.
like probably anyone that had lost a match, it's like crying or still. But,
No, I heard the same story from too many people.
I knew definitely that I'd taken him down. I don't know, 4 or 5 times, and had turned me many times, and he had never broken me off my hands and knees until this one chance. Of course, I could have probably kicked loose and run the edge like he was, but I didn't. I sat there, and when I hit, I get plumb off, and my head was almost over on the rim. You know, you got the 2-foot area, and I was into a bridge, and the Czechoslovak couldn't see was going to call me.
He was on the opposite side.
No, he was right, looking straight down. He couldn't even see. And the judge was watching the match. It was an exciting match over here. We were the center match. And we were watching that match, and the referee was behind.
I think there's a picture of that. I'm not sure. This is the freestyle group of entrants, I guess. Delgado, Lee Allen, Myron. Is Myron here? Bertucci.
Fisher.
Bill Fisher from Maryland.
Yeah.
Then Dan and Pete Blair and Kerslake. And is that you, Mac, just about out of the picture?
That's right.
Yeah. And then I think this is this is the Greco group. That's Dickie Wilson. And who's the next guy? Kent Townley.
Yeah,
Rice.
Al Rice. Tommy. Jay Holt from San Francisco. Peckham. Dale. And Dale Thomas.
Dale Lewis.
Dale Thomas and Dale Lewis. And then this is a pose picture, and I think the next one's an action picture.
We called Hodge, started on the 15th, and called it no grip Hodge.
No grip Hodge.
And when he shook hands with me, you never gave me more than just the edge of your fingers.
I had that experience. I know what you're saying. Just about that much of one. Huh?
Yeah.
No grip Hodge. Anybody that doesn't know this man, and maybe you haven't heard this tale, Mr. Meyer, I want to tell you. That guy, and I know that many people can say they've seen him do it. I haven't. Can take an apple and make applesauce just right in his hand.
Who could do that?
This man, Dan Hodge. Crush an apple.
I'd like to see that.
No grip Hodge. Well, I guess now we're moving on to 60, huh? This is
way back. That's a clinic. Yeah. Flagstaff, Arizona.
Flagstaff, Arizona. Boy, now they're getting older looking.
Old
now.
beat up uniform, beat up body.
Yeah, that particular uniform got faded out to the place where nobody could see the blue in it anymore, if I remember. The little stubs of the thread from the Olympic emblem are still sticking through.
Yeah.
What was so special about that one, by the way? You kept
Oh, shaking hands with a great coach.
That's what it was. You look pretty happy there, Mac.
Who wouldn't be?
Well, let's see what comes up next. I guess this is 1960. And we have Port in the front. Behind him is Gray. What do you, that's Terry behind Gray and Louis Gianni and Shelby. Doug. And then that would be Eddie DeWitt and Brand.
Dan Brand.
Dan Brand and Kerslake and
Johnny Mandel.
John Mandel, right. And Gray, I guess you're the only guy from that picture in the room, are you?
Yeah.
Where was that taken? Is that in this country or over there?
I was taken over in the village there. With that underneath there was a parking lot that we put down a red light mat. And that parking lot we went to work out there. That's the other one.
The wrestling contests themselves were held in some kind of an ancient structure.
The basilica was on a half dome. We wrestled in the morning. Late in the morning, a lot of times we'd be out
in the sunlight. Pretty hot and dry, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard a couple. I talked to Terry mostly, but Terry said, depending on the time of day, you could really get a bad match condition. Yeah. It was pretty rough.
But he was the record.
Hey, by the way, Fort Robertson, I saw him yesterday, and he asked me to tell you that he couldn't be here this morning, but he will be here tonight.
I understood that Doug was going to be here too, but he's evidently not coming. Also, Shelby. Anybody see Shelby anywhere? We had 3 gold medalists that year: Terry, Doug, and Shelby. And last year they all showed up here, but I think they all intended to come for this breakfast, and they finally got together at midnight, didn't they? They took them over and opened the hall for them at midnight. But that team, I remember that team worked out down here at Norman, and Port had them running those stadium steps, and boy, they were really, that was the first year that the team used the fluid balance. Is that right? They were taking some kind of hydrolysis fluid all the time, and in and out, flush your system.
Well, yeah, we were very good to take a lot of liquid. He had us, the trainer over there had us taking 16 salt pills a day. 16? 8 in the morning, 15. It was pretty hot over there. When I came to camp, I was pretty close to weight. I was close to 14.5. I had to get my weight up. I moved too much weight. I was coming out of practice and I fell. And I had to get my weight back up because we was working so hard. We had a lot of guys quit that camp and go home.
Couldn't stand the pace.
I asked Blueball one time we were in allotment. I had only been out there a couple of days. I got a couple of days later. I asked Blueball, I said, what is Sport trying to do? Is he trying to kill us or what? And Blueball just said, they can't make it tough enough for me.
That was the Briggs Hunt influence.
Say it again?
That was the Briggs Hunt.
Briggs Hunt influence. Briggs was the Greco coach, I guess, on that team. And
they had these weights we had to wear around our ankles and wrists when we ran.
And you did buddy system exercise too. Didn't you carry a guy on your shoulder?
I left him about a half an hour.
Having spent 4 years there, I know exactly what he's talking about. But you know, every afternoon in the wrestling room, Fort would come down and he'd say, "You little dog," he said, "let me show you a hole." He'd always get on with a high 3/4 scissor. And then he'd say, "Wrestle." This happened for 4 years. He would show me a hole. And finally I'd get loose and just about pin him while time had always run out. But one time he said, "Theoretically, a switch will not work." And I just kind of grinned. Had a boy named Bernard Sullivan. He just kicked him and said, "Get out of here, little dog." Come over and had Tommy blow the whistle. Instead of throwing a regular switch, I threw in a power switch with the leg. I know what he was probably planning on, just throwing a limber arm and dropping down, and he just had a big chest and try to throw me on the back. Well, it got tight, and he couldn't get the arm out to the last resort. He went to grab my foot, ankle with his hand on the right side switch. And he run his little finger in the mat and broke it. But I went ahead and swished it. And he got up his finger sideways, just turned black, and he straightened it up. And he told everybody, well, switch still won't work. So that's important.
This is in the old building, I guess. Is that right, Greg?
Yeah.
You're pinning a guy there. Who is that? Do you remember?
I think that must be in Mexico.
And
There's still stuff.
Those there's still stuff. Those people that are in the background, they're photographers and stuff like that out on the edge of this area. And that wall behind is this half dome effect. I think there's another picture of this is Shelby, I guess, getting his hand raised. You can see the
That's
building.
the Russian there. That's world champion.
He doesn't look very happy about it.
Yeah.
And I think this is a picture of Doug. This would be at night in the same place?
Yeah.
I was got
in
it.
the finals. Could be the finals.
That's an interesting uniform that guy has on. It's not a singlet. Did you recall that? Whether some of them just wore trunks over it? I hadn't seen any of these before. I guess this is the Myron with Shelby and Doug. Shelby and Doug, just in the same case as Robin Reed and Russell Viss, had the same high school coach over here in Ponca City. Grady, I guess. Very unusual.
Clodfelder.
And Clodfelder. Oh, it was Clodfelder, not good. It was Clodfelder. No, Clodfelder. Well, who was it? Grady? Well, this official happens to be Dr. Vincent Zuaro, who's in the room. He was officiating at a number of Olympic Games. I think this picture's taken in '64 at Tokyo. Is that right, Vince? And I'm not sure
He's
what
out of
those...
position, though, for that fall.
Just what exactly is happening before you there? It looks almost like a gymnastics act. Huh?
The fall's on this side.
Legends is presented by the National Wrestling Hall of Fame and produced by the Matt Talk Podcast Network. If you want to hear more from wrestling's legends, contribute to this ongoing project at hallofamelegends.org/contribute. One-time and small monthly donation options are available. We hope you've enjoyed this look into wrestling history. This has been Legends. I'm Jason Bryant.